Arsenal are up to something, and we've got to be wary of it. Also, I've got a stat on Saka that is absolutely fire. Yeah, I'm a loser, but that's why you're here. Exciting times. Let's get into this because Arsenal, we did the Fallout. You guys, I'm sure, hopefully enjoyed that, but we didn't do Arsenal because there's too much to talk about. And so this video is dedicated to those sweet, sweet Gunners. This season, it could be very different in terms of how they play, and there's a big reason why. Arsenal started their season brightly. You can tell from that momentum bar that they had an absolute stranglehold on this game of football, and it allowed them to control the match whilst also limiting the threat of Nottingham Forest, who kind of not played into their hands, but were kind of okay with that similar mindset of having a low block and then looking to break themselves. But Arsenal had 84% possession in the first half of this game, with the majority of possession coming in Nottingham Forest half. But how did they do it? Well, here's a screenshot that shows their average positions from their 2-0 victory over Newcastle last season, and you can see that the 4-3-3 adopted by Arteta actually resembled a 4-2-4 during the game, with Zinchenko and Xhaka having reserved roles along the same lateral plane as Jorginho. Arsenal also used what resembled a 3-2-5 in possession last season. That meant that Zinchenko had an inverted role. This is something that we saw a little bit more when they had the ball. Zinchenko would come in, almost be that second deep-lying playmaker for the team. It would allow Xhaka to be a lot higher up the pitch as well. Odegaard would, again, stay in these half spaces as two attacking eights, right? But it's different this season. Take a look at Arsenal's average positions this season against Forest. Wow, I mean, it's a lot bolder, there's more control, it's focused and more attacking to a point. This system resembles more of a 3-2-2-3, and there's a big reason as to why it works so well. The average positions don't actually do justice on how tactically complicated this system is, and why Arteta deserves immense credit for making it all work and being able to field all of his best players together so elegantly. It's about duality. And that double pivot of Rice and Partey, it has an incredibly high level of tactical nous from Arteta and just providing so many options for the team. So in terms of highlighting the changes from that 4-3-3 to this 3-2-2-3, this is obviously the big ones. Zinchenko coming out, Timber coming in, someone who can play as a centre-back, can play as a full-back as well. Gabriel, to the detriment of my FPL team, coming out. Saliba standing still in that centre-back position, being really, really important. And Ben White, who of course was that right-back previously, has got the DNA of a centre-back as well and would often step in or step up. Again, you're utilising real hybrid players here, and it turns into, of course, a back three. Now, Partey was this single pivot last season, but the dominance that they have now is dominance on both sides because Partey focused on this right-hand side, as you can see from his heat map. And Declan Rice dropped into this area here. And what it offered was the ability to play progressive passes. It also allowed Havertz to step into the team as well as one of those eights. And of course, you're now losing a defender, but they were so dominant with the ball. But also, importantly, they had the ability to go either through or around the sides by utilising Declan Rice and Thomas Partey, who, you know, it's not their best position to drop into there, but they're totally comfortable doing it. And that would then allow passes to be made round the sides if need be, but importantly, through the middle as well when possible. So when the ball was on the right, Partey often floated to the right-hand side, as we can see in this screenshot here. Yes, we can. Wonderful stuff. Let's just circle him briefly there. There you go, on the right-hand side. And you can also see from Partey's heat map that he had a positional focus similar to that of a right-back when the ball was in Arsenal's half. And we saw this in the game in the Community Shield. The right-hand side is Partey's, the left-hand side is Declan Rice's. That being said, Thomas Partey also had that freedom to step in centrally and be that single pivot, and Declan Rice could then move a little bit forward or a little bit further wide. As I said, when Partey was in possession of the ball in a central area, Rice would often not only move to the left, but he'd also pick up an advanced position. You can see him here in the top right-hand corner of the screenshot. And the intelligence of Declan Rice, I think, is on show here massively. Instead of being a lateral option, he moves forward 5 yards and then becomes a progressive option. This allows for even more options with Rice that little bit higher up, as Havertz then can move into a 10 position instead. This is great intelligence from Declan Rice because by him playing a little bit higher up, it allows Partey to play a pass that's progressive. You know, we've all seen that clip where, you know, Ben White doesn't want to play the ball to Saka in a straight line because it's just too easy to do that and to mark. He wants it to give him as he's on the turn. That's what Declan Rice is looking to do as well. If he plays side on, that's quite can be a dangerous pass, or certainly one that is easily to cut out. By moving just 5 yards further forward, you're giving yourselves a better chance of taking players out of the game and being an easier option to find. And Rice received 4 progressive passes in the match. If you compare that to last season, where he only averaged 1.02 per 90, you can see how he's already got a different role in this Arsenal side. Right, this is what happened next. Because Rice stepped up to create a 3-man attacking midfield with Havertz and Odegaard, it meant that Forest was so concerned in negating that sort of vertical pass. Centrally, it allowed Arsenal to play the ball into Saka. Saka stat coming up, okay? Get excited. Who had lots and lots and lots of space to do what he does best, which is either take on a player or, as we saw in the game, cut inside to do brilliant work, be it with his vision or his shooting. And that all came from those overloads in central areas. And this method of attack, it worked brilliantly in finding Saka over and over again. Here it comes. Can I have a drum roll, please? Saka received a total of 20 progressive passes during the match. Yeah, we'll get ready for another. The next highest was Kai Havertz with 10. That's double. 20 progressive passes. The main man. You couldn't stop it. They couldn't stop it. Let's talk about the role of those 8s, or, you know, traditionally known as those 8s, right? Havertz and Odegaard. It fascinated me in this one as well, because normally you'd expect an 8 to be ready to sort of just receive the ball in between the lines and for them to be on the turn, ready to facilitate the next stage of play. But this wasn't actually the case for Arsenal at some points during the game. The interchangeable aspect of the forward line, it really, really impressed me in this one. In this screenshot, Nketiah drops deep to play a quick 1-2, which again, you would have thought, oh, maybe he's pushing it and pushing it and pushing it as far as he can to kind of keep the centre-backs honest. But no, there's that movement. He does that 1-2, and you can see Havertz goes and replaces him as that central striker. And actually, Odegaard, you can see it in the bottom right-hand corner. Can you definitely see it? Yes, you can. You can see from his body language, he is looking to initiate that run in behind, which, again, if we were thinking about who's going to do those 3 things, if you know one person's coming short to pick up the ball, one person's looking to get in beyond, and one person's being that striker, it wouldn't be Odegaard. This is something that Arsenal have clearly rehearsed as a tactic to catch teams out this season. And the unpredictable nature of it, it could see some really surprising direct goals from Arsenal this season. But Odegaard's role wasn't limited to just this. He would also be available in wide areas a lot of the time to come and pick the ball up if they needed to. And if Rice and Partey, who had a lot of joy, weren't able to get on the ball as well, they would come out, or they would work a lot wider to allow the ball to make its way to Odegaard. Obviously, Nottingham Forest aren't stupid. They could see that Declan Rice wanted to get on the ball, Partey wanted to get on the ball. So with their press and their narrow block, they would try and stop the supply into those players. But again, that's where Odegaard, who you would expect to be in this area, actually twisted it up a little bit and allowed the play to go round the side. So really impressive from Arsenal in terms of their ability to go through when they could, but Odegaard having that freedom to pick up the ball. We've got a screenshot here, Ben White dropping deep, and you can see they're looking to cut out those passes to the likes of Partey and Declan Rice. So Odegaard just makes way round the side to pick up the ball and move the ball up the pitch. Instead of being in this area here, in those half spaces, he had that freedom to go out wide and help himself get the ball off Ben White. You could see it again, though, that he still picked up those really exciting spots on the pitch that he always does, still in those half spaces. This is an area where I think they're going to get a lot of joy from Odegaard. We saw it in one of the pre-season games. I think I spoke about it in a video. Him in this area, getting on the ball and playing those crosses, I think he is going to pick up this position as much as he can. He did that last season, but I think the difference here, someone like Kai Havertz and Declan Rice at that back post are going to be really, really impressive, and it could hurt teams, a bit like Haaland and De Bruyne did last season. And whilst Odegaard only made one key pass in the match, he did make 4 passes into the penalty area, which was the most of any Arsenal player. I think this could be a minor hint towards Odegaard becoming the penultimate pass in matches when Arsenal face a low block, which is something to consider for your FPL teams, of course. Kai Havertz's role was also really interesting. Odegaard, of course, and him playing as those 8s. And what Havertz did a lot of the time was that he would come over to that left-hand side. He kind of filled in for a lot of players, and it was just due to his intelligence. But it also allowed people to kind of forget about Martinelli. He had a very different role to Odegaard, but his role is still really important because we saw Havertz move over to that left-hand side all the time during the game. Here's an example of it. It allowed to create space for Martinelli to drift, but also Declan Rice as well, because sometimes that's the thing with football, is that just by utilising that space and the width of the pitch, you kind of freeze the opposition, because yes, they might be close to both players, but they're not close enough, and they end up getting a bit frozen. This is something that Man City have done brilliantly over the years, and why positionalism is so important to a lot of football managers. In this sequence, he moves the ball wide to receive the ball, which forces Aurier to come out to meet him. Let's just circle our boy Aurier there. And this creates subsequent space for Declan Rice and Martinelli. Martinelli seemingly being forgotten about here, and whilst nothing came of it in this move, it was a key focus for Arsenal, and I think it's something that we should expect to see often this season. We saw it last year brilliantly with Xhaka. Time and again, it wasn't really about him. It was about him understanding the space to be that facilitator, to create one-on-one chances or areas of space or pockets of space in those half spaces as well to help the team out. Kai Havertz and Declan Rice in particular, I think, could have a huge, huge role. To be honest, every single player on this pitch, but a huge role where they don't really get the numbers, but if you're not watching the ball and you're watching the players, you'll see that they're actually offering a lot to the team. So what did we learn? Well, there are a few things we can take away from Arsenal's performance in this opening game against Nottingham Forest. First of all, fluent in possession. Arsenal now have moving parts, more so than ever before, more complicated, more delicate, and it's a really fluent system. And I think this means that teams have to have multiple answers to stop Arsenal this season. Forest had a few answers, but ultimately lacked the biggest thing, which was negating the wide threat of Saka and Martinelli. However, this wide threat was facilitated by the spine of the team, being able to float into different areas of the pitch and just understanding the whole width and breadth of that pitch. Players having more than one role. Declan Rice is the most important example of this. The ambiguous nature of his role is effectively like having about 4 players in the side. And with the level of output that he offers in the 3 different thirds, he's going to be absolutely huge. Declan Rice is going to change up a gear this season. And in this Arsenal system, he's going to be absolutely untouchable. He's going to be so crucial in every big game of football that they play this year, be it what I thought would be just the big games, but actually against the lesser sides as well, because he allows them to play 3 at the back. The team's got multiple attacking avenues. Something important that we learned from the Forest game is that Forest did somewhat of a good job negating Arsenal vertically, despite Arsenal dominating the match. But we also learned that if vertical balls through the centre don't work, they have other methods of creating chances. Nottingham Forest were able to negate that vertical passing a lot, actually, by staying narrow, staying compact in terms of how they played. But still, overloads were created. They had other methods of getting the ball up the pitch, and that was through using that width that we spoke about, and then allowing Saka, or round the other side as well. Again, Declan Rice maybe dropping in, getting the ball round and finding the ball to Martinelli. And once those 2 players have the ball, they are such a threat. So you can't stop them going through, but if you can stop them going through, they can go round as well, which is pretty scary. And all in all, Arsenal are tactically brilliant. The temptation here is to say that they're like a well-oiled machine, but I don't think that phrase does justice to quite how tactically proficient they are. They are more like a well-coded AI at this point. And if this game is anything to go by, they are going to be right up there. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm super impressed. I thought it would take more time for them to have that fluency and that versatility, but it seems to be there. Yes, it's only Nottingham Forest, but still, that is a tricky customer when it comes to breaking down an opposition, and they were able to do it, and they do have so many answers. The thing to take away is this is a new Arsenal side. It's a slight tweak, but it is incredibly fluent, incredibly quickly, and these are smart players. And this is a team that could go very far in whatever competition they are in this year.